I'm Allison from Learning at the Primary Pond. I'm a literacy specialist, and in this video, I'm going to explain one big mistake that so many teachers make when they're teaching kids to divide up multisyllabic words. And it's an easy mistake to fix, but if you don't fix it, unfortunately, it can impact your students' ability to read multisyllabic words in the context of text. So before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and do that now, and then also hit that little bell so that you don't miss out on any of the brand new videos I post about teaching literacy in K2. Okay, so dividing up multisyllabic, meaning words with more than one syllable, dividing up multisyllabic words into their individual syllables is a really great way to help kids tackle these longer words. If you have students that are reading multisyllabic words, you may notice like they're missing parts, they're kind of stumbling through the middle, maybe they're not reading the ending, but if their brains learn to break them down into syllables, it can be so helpful for them in reading these words, and it actually also helps with spelling too. Now, in order to be able to break up words into their syllables, kids need to know a couple of things. One, they need to know the syllable division rules, and two, they need to know the different types of syllables. Specifically open and closed, I think, are some of the most important to teach. So let me give you an example just so you can kind of see what I mean when I'm talking about breaking up words into syllables. This is a pretty short word, and for many kids, they wouldn't even have to break it up into syllables, but I just think it's good for our purposes here. So when you have them break up words into syllables, you don't have them read the word first. The whole point is to divide it and then have them read each syllable and then the whole word. So this particular word has a V vowel, C consonant, C, V pattern. So there's two vowels and there's two consonants between them. So I have them circle the vowels, and you can use two different colors if you want. So here we have the vowels circled. I'm gonna label them with a V, and then I have them underline the consonants between the vowels. So there's an M and a B. So this is a vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel word. Now, this rule tells us that, the VCCV rule tells us that when there's two consonant sounds between the vowels, then we can divide it up between those two consonants. So we'll draw a line to show how to divide it. So then at this point, I would have the kids, technically I would have them code the syllables. So this is a closed syllable. It's got one vowel and it ends in a consonant. So this is a closed syllable. And then this is an open syllable because it ends with a vowel. I have some other YouTube videos that explain some of these rules, but I just want us to give a quick example, and then I'm gonna get into talking about the mistake. So now we've got our division, we've got the syllable types. When there's a closed syllable, typically the vowel is short. So it's gonna have the short U sound, When a syllable is open, then typically that will have the long sound, so it's gonna say O. So knowing this is why dividing up words into their syllables is also helpful, is because it helps with the vowel sounds. And when you have longer words, even longer than this word, you want the kids to be able to figure out what the vowel sounds are. And so knowing about closed and open syllables and the syllable division, it helps them figure that out. So now we know this is short, this is long, so we have jumbo, jumbo, okay? So in a nutshell, that's like a quick syllable division example. As you saw, it helps with knowing the vowel sounds. It helps kids break it up so that it's not like so many, because sounding out like j, b, o, that's a lot to blend, right? So especially when we get into even longer words, this is just really helpful to them in being able to tackle those words and read all the parts correctly. Now, I do want to say, if you're like, I have no idea what you just did, Allison, don't feel bad, because I didn't know the syllable division rules. I didn't know the syllable types for a long, long time. I didn't learn it in my undergraduate program. I didn't learn in my master's degree in literacy. I had to seek out additional training to know this stuff. So my question for you is, when you were trained as a teacher, were you taught how to help kids divide words into syllables? Is that something that you know how to do? Let me know in a comment, because I know that the vast majority of teachers were not, and maybe things are changing nowadays, but a lot of teachers weren't. So I'm curious if you were. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the mistake, but I do want to mention too, if you want to learn how to teach kids to divide words into syllables, I have this guide, and this is it printed out and bound, but it's in my Teachers Pay Teacher store. I will include a link in the caption of this video, but it teaches you and shows you how to teach your kids how to divide words into syllables. There's like posters, lessons, activities, really everything you need to teach them these skills. So again, I will include the link to this in the caption of this video if you want to dig in and learn more of this stuff yourself. Okay, now let's get into talking about the biggest mistake that teachers make that can actually end up hurting kids' ability to read multisyllabic words. The biggest mistake I see, and it's honestly easy to make, is that sometimes we as teachers lose sight of the big picture and the whole point of teaching syllable division. There are rules to teach, there are syllable types, we're dividing things up and labeling, and it can get a little bit technical, right? So to avoid this mistake, at all times when you're teaching syllable division, keep in mind your goal, which is for students to be able to read and also spell multisyllabic words. So let me show you a little bit more about what I mean. Let's say a student is trying to read a word, or you have a word that you're trying to have them divide into syllables, and you know the syllable division rules, you know the syllable types, but it's like not matching. And you're like, oh my gosh, is this like an exception? What do I do? And so instead of helping your kids be flexible and figure out what the word is anyway, you just stop them and you're like, okay, I gotta go like figure this out or do some research. Now, it's not bad to do research and inform yourself, of course, but you know, kids, when they're reading, it's not super practical for them to constantly be going and doing like syllable research or asking you, right? So what they need to do is they just need to divide the word the best they can and read it. Because again, that's the whole point of these activities. Not so that your kids get so good at like labeling syllables and all that, but so that they can read multisyllabic words in context. And so, you know, we know that every syllable in English will have at least one written vowel. So if you come to a word and you're like, I really don't know what this syllable division is, guide the kids in being flexible, model that flexibility for them and say, hey, you know, I know we're gonna have like, you know, 2 syllables because there's a vowel and a vowel team or whatever the word is, and just say, I'm just gonna divide it somewhere in the middle between these 2 vowel parts, and then we'll try to read it and figure it out. So that flexibility is so key to model for them. Because sometimes there are some words in English that are a little bit weird. And the other thing too is that the syllable pronunciation, the way we say syllables or might clap syllables, is actually different from the written syllabication in many, or syllabification in many words. So it really can get tricky. There's some murky water here, but keep your main goal in mind. And your goal is for kids to read multisyllabic words accurately, for them to be able to break them up. So if you don't know the exact division, it's okay. Model flexibility and encourage your kids to be flexible too. I think the other important piece of not losing sight of the big picture is the amount of practice time and emphasis you place on different activities. So yeah, we can spend, you know, a couple of chunks of time a week, not tons of minutes, but a few minutes working on breaking up multisyllabic words. But kids need opportunities to actually do this in the context of a text. So if you are, you know, spending tons of time on syllable division, but you're not having them actually read multisyllabic words in text, then again, we're kind of losing sight of the big picture. Another thing is that you can avoid doing is avoid not helping kids make the bridge between what they're doing here with syllable division and their reading. So if you do the syllable division stuff, but then as your kids are reading, you never mention it, some kids will make the connection and other kids will not. So that means that we need to actually model reading multisyllabic words in text for kids and show how you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, you know, I can't write in this book, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look for the vowel sounds and I'm gonna divide the word between the consonants, then I'm gonna break it up. So you're essentially getting them to do without paper and pencil what you've been teaching them to do when you're having them divide up words, okay? So in a nutshell, the number one mistake that teachers make is not keeping the big picture in mind, meaning the goal of having kids read multisyllabic words correctly. And so things we want to avoid are spending oodles of time on dividing up multisyllabic words, like, just like I've shown you here. We want to make sure that we help them see the connection between syllable division practice and what they are actually reading. And then the other thing too is we need to model flexibility. Sometimes we don't know a syllable division or it's a little bit weird. You have to show kids that they can still figure out a word even if they don't know perfectly the exact syllable division. All of these things are really important if you want kids to transfer their learning to reading multisyllabic words in text. That's the big picture. That's what we have to keep in mind. Okay, so if you want to learn more about how to teach the syllable types and syllable division rules, and if you want to understand them better yourself, you've got to check out my complete guide. It truly is a complete guide where you will learn it, the kids will learn it, and then of course, whatever you're teaching here, you always want to connect to them reading connected text so they can really practice what they've learned in context. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. Before you leave, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.